Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland Bible Study Part 2. We are still in the NIV. And again, we're going to do all of the New Testament in the NIV this year, and then all of the Old Testament and the Psalms in the NIV, and the Proverbs on the Facebook page in the NIV in 2025. Because, you know what it takes just to read without any commentary whatsoever. If you were to, because it takes longer, there's more books in the Old Testament, so it takes longer to read them. So you have to read several chapters a day in the Old Testament to do it. So it's going to be different, a lot more videos. So it's going to take some adjusting. And because otherwise I would need at least a half an hour a day straight just to read. So, and record if I wanted to try to do the New Testament and the Old Testament with the Psalms and the Proverbs all together in video form. I've already calculated this. One day maybe, but not with the NIV, probably not with the KJV. We'll see. Because eventually I'll retire, and then when I do that, I will have enough time, and then maybe I will do it that way, but not just yet. So we are in Hebrews. We are in chapter 12. We're doing verse 14 to the end, which is verse 29. Remember, this is a letter written by somebody who was raised Jewish, converted to Christianity, for the people who were raised Jewish and converted to Christianity. And they just got finished going through and talking about how we have to have as much faith as their, Hall of Faith, instead of Hall of Fame of Faith kind of thing. They're super faith heroes that they went through very carefully, talking about who they were in the previous, especially chapter 11, and gotten into how God disciplines his children, because every father disciplines their children. So, warning against refusing God. Chapter 12, verse 14. Make every effort to live in peace with all men and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. See that no one is sexually immoral or is godless like Esau. I was trying to make multiple words one. Godless like Esau, who, for a single meal, sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son. Afterward, as you know, he wanted to inherit this blessing. He was rejected. He could bring about no change of mind, though he sought the blessing with tears. Once they realize what they've lost, then they're sorry. It's like, well, you're not really sorry. You're sorry you got caught. Those are not the same things. People who are actually sorry do not have a problem showing up in the 3D, apologizing for their behavior, doing whatever the penance is. Like, they come to you after they've started to make the changes as proof that they have made changes, because they understand that they must make changes. Or they come to you with going, I know I need to make changes. How can I make this right? Let's talk about it. And they're accepting their place, their role in creating whatever the blame is. If they're not willing to do any of that, they're not willing to take accountability for their actions, they're not sorry. They're sorry they got caught. Every child cries when you tell them how they're going to get punished for that bad thing they just did. At least in my experience. Even if your punishment is just that they have to sit in a chair. And because what is timeout? Sit there and don't touch things? You have not come to a mountain that can be touched and that is burning with fire, to darkness, gloom, and storm, to trumpet blast, or to a voice speaking words. Those who heard it begged to be no further spoken to them. This is all things that are in the Old Testament of the Bible. Because they could not bear what was commanded. Even if an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned. See, Exodus chapter 19, verses 12 and 13. The sight was so terrifying that Moses said, I am trembling with fear. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 19. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the heavenly Jerusalem, to the city of the living God. You have come to the thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, the judge of all men, to the spirits of the righteous, the righteous men made perfect, to the spirits of the righteous men made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Jesus' blood is better than Abel's blood, apparently. See to it that you do not refuse him who speaks. If they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, how much less will we if we turn away from him who warns us from heaven? At this time, his voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, once more, I will not only shake the earth, but also the heavens. So that's a different. So I'm probably not gonna pronounce that properly. So I want to be able to spell it for you. And they only give you the abbreviation there, so just bear with me a second. So Haggai, Haggai, Haggai. However you would pronounce that. Okay. So I mean, it's just a different prophet. So he's reconfirming with another prophet there. So part of these things that you have in here, it's like when they were saying they were not, they killed the prophets when they were around. So they killed the Pharisees, the kings, the people who are actually in the temples, the high priests in the temples in Jerusalem, were very rarely the prophets. And the prophets were telling them that they were consorting with demons because they were worshiping multiple gods. They brought the pantheon into the temple that was supposed to be just to the one God, the living God of heaven, the only God. And they brought idols in there. They started doing worship. They were lighting incense to Baal and Ashtoreth, like anything found in the temple at Jerusalem. From any archaeological excavations, and it comes to any kind of worship, should be looked at very suspiciously, and is likely that of demon worship. Because unless you got the words that were written down in there, got books in the Old Testament of the Bible, and it's sitting in there, it was written down, then what you were dealing with there is called, what in the Old Testament is, what is detestable in the eyes of the Lord. So they're flat out going, you killed the prophets, which were not high priests. They were people out in the middle of nowhere telling you you're doing it wrong because God sent them to you to tell you you're doing it wrong. And you couldn't handle that. You could have been, what? I can't worship multiple gods? You're lying. And you killed them. But you think you got an idea. And you think you know what it is. But that's why he shook the earth and he split the temple of Jerusalem. And now the Dome of the Rock is on top of where it was. There's no way that's coming down without either a natural disaster or unless we're going to go into an all-out holy war to get anything that's underneath there. And I hope we never go into another holy war. I mean, we haven't finished the first one we're in. So I'd rather we not keep having them. The words once more, verse 27, the words once more indicate the removing of what can be shaken. That is, created things, earthly things, human-made things, man-made things. So that what cannot be shaken may remain. Your actual faith, not your symbols of faith, not just your rituals of faith. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful, and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe. For our God is a consuming fire. Deuteronomy 4:24. So, when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, you sort of get overtaken, and it does sort of make you passionate and outgoing. So he's saying, remember, we get the kingdom of heaven. Jesus is on our side. He's conspiring for us to have the situations we need in our lives so we can get to the kingdom of heaven, and we should rejoice in that. Because why? What isn't there to enjoy? Don't refuse Jesus when he comes in and says, you can't have all this. You can have all that things, which you already inherently know are probably sinful, all the worldly things. You can have all that, but you can't have me. You can have all that, but you have to have Satan. You have to walk with Satan. Or you can walk this narrow footpath here with me, and I will provide your needs for you, but they're not going to look like what all that is over there. They're going to look different, but you're going to get what you need. And you have to decide. Is the status, the stuff that everybody else can see and then makes them tell you that you're important, is that more of value to you than being honorable and walking that narrow footpath? Because he says in this book, you can't serve the God of money and the God of love.